Richard Kuklinski, aka the Iceman, was a serial killer who stalked the streets of northern New Jersey in the 1980s. Kuklinski claimed he murdered more than 100 people. He shot, strangled, bludgeoned, and laced food with cyanide to murder his victims. But in the mid-1980s, there was no direct evidence tying Kuklinski to the murders. Until New Jersey Deputy Attorney General Bob Carroll created a task force with the goal of taking down a serial killer in northern New Jersey, who was alleged to have killed 5 people over a span of 4 years.
In each of those cases, they met with the subject with large sums of money and either were found dead or they disappeared.
Kuklinski had a number that he gives out to individuals that he does business with, and that number was the number that he gave players that disappeared. It was a toll call that would show up. He was the last person they met through a telephone toll call.
So at this point in time, we had Richard Kuklinski as a target. We had a series of murders, and we had other individuals that could be witnesses against him that were in fact being hunted by Kuklinski. We eventually found those witnesses, and those witnesses became state witnesses. And that's when we decided to go full tilt with an undercover operation.
I'm Dominick Polifrone, and I was the undercover agent that worked the Richard Kuklinski Iceman case. My goal in the undercover operation was to see if I can meet with Kuklinski and extract information on each individual that we thought Kuklinski murdered and hear direct evidence from him how he did it.
First, they had to find Kuklinski. Kuklinski knew he was on law enforcement's radar and was on the lam. But Prosecutor Carroll had a plan to draw the Iceman out.
And what we learned from suspected associates of Kuklinski was that Kuklinski now was looking for cyanide. But what we decided from a strategic point of view was to have Dominick pose as someone that could produce cyanide and then wait until Kuklinski would come to him.
In March of 1985, Agent Polifrone began hanging out at a location where Kuklinski was known to visit from time to time, an establishment known simply as The Store, where they sold coffee and stolen goods. It is at this location that investigators believed Kuklinski first met all his victims. For a year and a half, Agent Polifrone kept going back to the store in hopes of drawing out Kuklinski. Then, in September of 1986, Dominick gets the break he needs.
The guy behind the counter goes, it's the big guy. He wants to know if he can meet him at the Dunkin' Donuts. I said, tell him yeah. About a half hour later, I meet Kuklinski at the Dunkin' Donuts. We go into Dunkin' Donuts. He goes, can you get pure cyanide? I could have fell off the chair. We shake hands. He gives me a telephone number. I give him my pager number, and I said, let's stay in touch. And I'm looking at the number, I'm going, this is the number. And that's the number that he gave to the other 5 individuals that were murdered by him. I knew that, one, it's a good sign for the investigation, but it's not a good sign for me. I just made Kuklinski's hit list.
Agent Polifrone knew he had to be careful. Kuklinski was suspected of not only murdering people he had done business with, but also members of his own crime ring, so they couldn't be used as witnesses against him.
But what we decided was to have Dominick pose as someone that could produce cyanide, and then that would engender an exchange, knowing full well that Kuklinski's method was to get what he wants and then kill the subject. So in this case, Dominick's offering cyanide with the probability that Dominick would be eliminated at some point in the future too.
Dominick decided to use Kuklinski's own strategy against him.
Kuklinski couldn't resist the opportunity to get cyanide to kill others. Dominick had to pose as, yes, I have cyanide, and along the way, had to engage him in dialogue that might reveal evidence of the murders we knew he committed.
Listen, keep this in mind, all right?
You tell me about the cyanide. I got this rich kid, all right? Supplying with a lot of coke, all right? I want him gone. You think we can do the coke?
We created the scenario that a rich kid was coming from Florida with a quantity of money to buy cocaine, and they would essentially kill the kid and then get rid of his body in a drum like Kuklinski had done before and take the money.
Finally, the Iceman begins opening up with details about how and who he murdered with his weapon of choice, cyanide.
We discussed everything from using pure cyanide in a spray, how he tested it out, how he did it on people in Jersey City.
I walked by him and gave him a little push. Sneeze. Yeah, he tripped and fell and they thought we had a heart attack. They had a heart attack.
He was telling me how he murdered these individuals that he met at the store in Paterson, New Jersey.
They found the guy on the street. The autopsy proved he was only dead 2 weeks. But he was dead 2.5 years. So he got a little nuts twisted on that.
Louis Masgay disappeared in 1981. Then in 1983, his body was found in New York on the side of a road, partially frozen. He was shot several times.
When they did the autopsy, they found ice crystals in the body, and it was August.
That's where the name Iceman comes from the Masgay murder.
I had him. When he said that, I said, I got the son of a I got all the information that I needed that provided direct evidence on each murder that he did.
After the meeting, agents closely monitored Kuklinski's conversations through a wiretap placed on his phone lines.
We found out through recorded conversations that what Kuklinski was planning was not only to kill the rich kid with Dominick, but to kill Dominick also.
It was no longer safe for Agent Polifrone to meet directly with Kuklinski, so the takedown and arrest needed to be carefully planned out. The plan was for an undercover detective to pose as the rich kid, and Kuklinski and Polifrone would meet him at the Vince Lombardi service station. Agent Polifrone would provide Kuklinski with sandwiches and a vial of cyanide, with which they would poison the rich kid.
Kuklinski thought he was going to put the cyanide on the egg sandwiches. We were going to negotiate $80,000, give the egg sandwiches to the rich kid to eat.
Dominick and the Iceman would then kill the rich kid, take the cocaine and take the money.
Dispose of the body, put him in the barrel, and dump him. I walk over to him. He opens up his trunk. In the trunk is duct tape, rubber gloves, and a rope.
What's up with that? What's wrong with you? You want to hurt it?
He goes, beautiful. He puts that right where he had tape in the gloves. We had the lab makeup simulated cyanide. It's the simulated cyanide wouldn't kill an ant. I gave Richard the 3 egg sandwiches.
You can put on a...
We were strictly focused on taking the rich kid.
I'm going to bring him right to the back of the stand and let him test it. Just have a quick.
He says, my wife is sick. I got to go home, but I'll be back. I told Bobby he's heading home. He left, and I'm just waiting, and I hear, let him go. They're going to take him down at the residence.
Kuklinski took the cyanide and went home. I wanted to see if he would put this simulated cyanide on the sandwiches, which he did. However, his wife had an emergent medical appointment, had to go. He jumped in the car with his wife. He had a gun on him, and he was on his way to drop his wife off. And we decided at that point, we have everything we need. Let's take him down right now. We had the street blocked off. The tactical units had surrounded him, and he tried to get away. He drove up on a curb, went on a grassy area, then drove back down.
He stops the car. They were trying to get him out of the car, and he was fighting them. Finally got him to the ground where they could get cuffs on him.
Richard Kuklinski was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder. He was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder for the killings of Daniel Deppner and Gary Smith. He pled guilty to murdering George Malaband and Richard Masgay. Kuklinski was sentenced to 4 life terms in prison.
Kuklinski died in prison in March of 2006. He was 70 years old.